Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again and we're going to have a look at yet another of the beers that I bought in my recent order from the House of Trembling Madness down in York. An awesome beer shop if you can get there physically. I was there back in about 2017 or so, and from what I gather it's only gotten better over the last couple of years, but they've also got a great web shop these days, and from what the English beer tubers tell me, it is one of the best value online shops that you're going to find in England, and they've got a great selection of stuff there. If you want some English craft beers, I highly recommend that you check them out. They delivered my beers very, very quickly, and just ridiculous things are on that web shop, so make sure you check them out. For this review though, we've got a beer that I think will be very, very interesting. So this one is a collaboration beer. Both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before. One of the breweries, the home brewery, is very well known for their New England hazy style IPAs, whereas the away brewery are really well known for their kind of German style lager beers, and this is a style of beer that you don't come across all that often these days in general, but come to think of it, I don't think I've ever had an English brewed example of this style before, and I think that is another interesting perspective on this review, so very, very curious to see how this one turns out. So for the home brewery then, we are going to head to Leeds in Yorkshire, and we're having a look at another beer from North Brewing Company. So this beer is simply called Dark Lager. It comes in at 4.5% ABV, and from what I gather, this one is a German Schwarzbier, Czech Tmavy type lager, this one, which basically means there's a bit of kind of breadiness and black malt to it, rather than it being a more kind of caramelly orientated thing like the Czech Cherny or the German Dunkel. But it's brewed in collaboration with Donzoko Brewing Company from Hartlepool in the northeast of England, and we know that they do some very, very nice lagers actually. I think this could well be the first lager that I'm having from North Brewing Company, and as I said, I think it's my first example of an English brewed Schwarzbier Tmavy type beer as well actually. So yeah, very, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Hopefully it's another interesting one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. When it came to making that English order, I wanted to review something from North Brewing Company, and out of the ones that the House of Trembling Madness had, this is just the one that caught my eye because it is so unusual actually. And you guys know that I am going through a little bit of a lager phase here on the channel at the moment, so yeah, you can imagine this is one that I thought I really would quite enjoy, so I hope that you guys enjoy that as well. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. A 4.5% Schwarzbier Tmavy type beer, this one. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from North Brewing Company and from Donzoko Brewing Company. You will no doubt see more added to both of those lists in the fairly near future, fingers crossed. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite readily at the moment because of how easily accessible these English beers are to me in the motherland of Scotland, enjoying a little bit of time at home. But we're also getting a fairly steady supply of English beers over in Sweden as well, and long may that continue. As I've told you many a time, the English beer scene is thriving at the moment. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about North Brewing and then Donzoko. So we kick off with North Brewing because these guys are the home brewery. So as I've mentioned to you already, North Brewing are based in Leeds in Yorkshire. And the company, it was founded by John Ginjo and Christian Townsley, who owned the North Beer Bar, which was opened back in 1997. So as I've told you in previous reviews, Yorkshire does have a pretty unique craft beer culture within England. They've got some very old craft breweries there comparatively. The men to talk to about that would either be Rob Hopsine or Stuart Pickard, Ginge Real Ale Trail. They've reviewed a hell of a lot of Yorkshire beers in their time and know the place very intimately because they live there. But yeah, there's breweries like Rooster that have been around since the 80s and things, so that's very old for craft breweries, particularly in England. Of course, they've got the whole real ale culture there, but yeah, for American style craft breweries, the 1980s is particularly old actually. But yeah, these days the group that owns the North Beer Bar operates 6 venues around the city of Leeds from what I understand, and apparently North Bar used to work quite closely with the likes of James Clay and Vertical Drinks to help promote craft beer throughout Yorkshire, which is great. But later on they decided they wanted to brew their own beers, and that venture has turned out to be very, very successful. So the brewery itself is located in the Taverners Walk Industrial Estate. It's got a 200-person tap room and it's equipped with a 15-barrel brew kit. The brewers at the brewery are Seb Brink, who used to work for Golden Owl, and also Darius Darwell, who worked for the Bristol Beer Factory. Bristol, of course, a very good craft beer city in England these days. As I mentioned before, these guys have really made their name when it comes to the hazy New England style IPAs. There's some great examples of that style there, and probably one of my favourite beers that I've had from North Brewing so far would be the Transmission IPA, one of the best core range IPAs that I've come across in recent times. I think you can get that one in Marks and Spencer's for very, very cheap. My good friend Adam at Mersey Beers sent me a can of that and I was very, very impressed with that one actually, so make sure you check that one out. But as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, North Brewing Company have produced around 175 different kinds of beer, and that number is only going to increase. These guys are a very, very prolific brewery, very well respected, and they are starting to experiment a little bit more with different styles and things like that. So I would highly recommend you check out these guys if you get the chance. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about North Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of those different beers that they've done. But yeah, let's go on to the away brewery in this case then. Donzoko Brewing Company are from Hartlepool in the northeast of England. So this company is headed by Rhys Hugel, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name, but he started homebrewing back in 2014 and he studied chemistry at Newcastle University and then later at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. And it was during his time in Germany that he developed a love of the German style lager beers and the various other things over there. But when he finished his first degree, he was due to study his master's, but he really decided that he wanted to do something else. And after having had some success with his home brewing, he decided that he was going to start up his own company, and he managed to do that with the help of savings and grants from Newcastle University and also Hartlepool Council. And then he got his company up and running properly in 2017. So originally they were brewing the wort at another brewery and then transporting it in bags to their own premises where the fermentation was taking place, and then they were bottling it and canning it themselves. But they've been gradually building up the operations in their own place in Hartlepool and just producing lots of different beers. Initially they were only brewing German style lager beers, but there are a few kind of pale ales and stuff like that in there these days, as well as a few kind of Belgian sort of beers. But over 2020 Rhys was planning to invest in his own brew kit and add some staff to the brewery, but I think that plan was basically put on hold because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic, but fingers crossed that is something that can happen at some stage fairly soon. But they brew their signature beer, the Northern Hellas, under contract at Gypsy Hill Brewery in London, who are also worth checking out, and I reviewed that on the channel for you fairly recently and it was really pretty damn nice. Once again, thanks to my friend Adam over at Mersey Beers. Do go and check out his channel. But the most recent beer I had from these guys was the Fest beer, which was really, really nicely done, and I do want to try some more things from these guys at some point in the fairly near future. But as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 40 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said, there's a number of pale ales these days, IPAs, black IPAs, in addition to the kind of German beers that they started off with. So yeah, a very, very interesting brewery, this one. I do wish them luck getting their own facility up and running properly in Hartlepool. I do hope they can get a brew kit and, you know, just get fired into it, because the Northern Hellas is a great beer. I really, really like that one. The Fest beer was awesome as well. So I hope that at some stage I can try a Dunkel from these guys. My good friend Peter, the Clueless Drinker, he loves his lager beers as well, and I know that he's quite a big fan of the different Donzoko things. The first beer I ever tried from these guys was a Doppelbock, and that was very, very nicely done, I have to say. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Donzoko Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's all that we have for your brewery history for the moment. Let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'm really curious to see what this one has in store for us. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty snazzy. You get some really nice artwork it's quite simple, but it's really just very effective. North Brewing's artwork is really very nice actually. There you can see in the front of the label, there is the North Brewing Company symbol that you'll see on all the beers, and there you can see the more kind of extensive one on the back, and there is the symbol as well for Donzoko Brewing Company. But yeah, this beer is supposed to have Pilsner malt in it, caramel, and I think Vienna malt as well from what I remember. But yeah, I think it should be very, very nice. This beer is a 440ml can. I think I paid maybe £3.50, £4 for this particular can. But yeah, 4.5% dark lager this one. I do gather that it is supposed to be a Czech Tmavy German Schwarzbier kind of thing. But yeah, it should hopefully be a very, very interesting one. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and into the glass and we'll have a taste of it. Just really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. It's crazy to think 2,600 beer reviews in and I've never had a Schwarzbier from England. Of course, probably the most accessible version of this beer would be the Kustritzer, which you can get in quite a few supermarkets and things these days. But yeah, when it comes to lager beers though, remember the definition of a lager beer is a bottom fermented beer. Usually these beers undergo a colder fermentation around, you know, like 10, 11, 12 degrees, whereas ales tend to undergo fermentation at like, you know, 15, 16, 17, 18. Those are known as top fermented beers. But yeah, when it comes to lager beers, of course, the two most prominent countries would be Germany and the Czech Republic, and they've got similar styles actually, but they've got pseudonyms. So the Pilsner style of beer, the Pilzen as the Czechs would call it, is obviously a lager, the most popular style of beer in the world. Then the Germans have the Helles. There's two types: the Dortmunder, the more hoppy one, and the Munich, which is the slightly more bready one. The Czechs have a variant of that as well, which is called the Svetli. Then you've got the amber lagers, the Märzens, the Vienna lager kind of fits into that from Austria as well. But then on the Czech side you have the Leitzach. Then if you go up to the German Dunkel, the more kind of mahogany coloured lager, sweet and caramelly, the Czechs have the Czerny, which is the equivalent to that. And then you've got the Schwarzbier, which is the black lager like this one, more kind of roasty and toasty and things. Then the Czechs have the Tmavy, which is their equivalent of it. Of course, the Germans have got the Doppelbock as well, which is essentially a very strong Dunkel, and I think that kind of sums up all there is to know about the different lager beer styles actually. Other than that, what I would say is that the German ones tend to be a little bit more kind of crisp and a little bit drier almost, whereas the Czech ones are a little bit kind of thicker and more bready, and that usually is the main kind of feature, if you like, between them. But the Czech, also the hoppiness is a bit different. You know, the Czech Sats hops are a bit more kind of spicy, I think, than the German ones, which are a bit more brighter and floral, if that makes sense. So yeah, very kind of, you know, history 101 of the lager beers actually. But yeah, as you could see when we poured this beer, it had maybe about a quarter finger, if that, if you were lucky, when we poured it. But that head has just faded away to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. There's a tiny little bit of foam around the edge of the glass there, but as you can see, this beer has poured a lovely dark kind of ebony colour. If we shine the light through this one, it is actually pretty damn dark, to be honest with you. There's not, if I put this right up and next to the light, there's very little coming through that actually. So this is a pretty hazy lager, I have to say, which is quite interesting. But yeah, there is one or two big bubbles, or there are one or two big bubbles just sticking towards the side of the glass there, but you can see a few little bubbles just kind of popping their way up towards the surface there. But I mean, overall it does look pretty nice actually. I'm very, very curious to see how this beer tastes. But in terms of a Schwarzbier or a Czech Tmavy, it certainly doesn't look out of the ordinary. This dark you know, ebony colour, I guess we could say, or simply black, is exactly what you'd expect. So yeah, certainly looks the part of a Schwarzbier. The other thing I should point out is that I could have drunk this beer in a tankard or something, but my tankard's up on the window, and you know, when I'm home I like drinking out of my 6 degrees north glasses. These tulip glasses are the best kind of all-rounders for lots of different styles. But yeah, curious to see how this beer turns out. In terms of its appearance though, nothing overly surprising about this one. Let's check out the aroma and see how we get on. Oh yeah, the aroma of this straight away, I'm just going to say that's very, very nice. And it's quite interesting too. So straight away with this one, you get a lovely kind of smooth brown bready backbone to it. You can smell a little bit of that kind of roasty toasty black malt in there, but really it's the smoothness, it's that brown bready smoothness that just kind of dominates this one. From the aroma, I'm wondering if this beer is going to lean a little bit more towards the Czech side of things. But at the same time, you can smell a little bit of the Pilsner malt in there. And as I've told you in other reviews, Pilsner malt is really annoying to describe because it is more just a sort of vibe, if you like. It doesn't so much contribute to the flavour in that sense, but it tends to be a little bit more about the mouthfeel, and you can just smell the crispness coming off the Pilsner malt in this. There's definitely, the Pilsner malt that's in there is very, very nice. But yeah, there is a little bit of a brown bready quality to this one. That'll mainly be coming from the Vienna malt. And it's interesting this, because one of the malts that's always great to use in beers like this would be one of the Carafa malts from Weirmann in Bamberg in Franconia in the north of Bavaria in Germany. That's a very, very famous maltery, that. But this one, this smells quite different to the other sort of Schwarzbiers and things that I've had. There was quite a few Schwarzbiers in Sweden in the first half of the year, actually, and maybe throughout 2019, come to think of it. Black IPAs are quite popular at the moment, actually. But yeah, the aroma of this beer is lovely. As you can see, a little bit of a well-fired toasty bread crust in there, a little bit of black malt, some nice kind of brown bready qualities in there sitting on top of it. You can smell one or two almost slightly woody undertones to the beer, but you've also got there's a nice little teeny little bit of a toasty caramel in there, but I would say that that's quite minimal. Again, that's probably coming from the Vienna malts, but you do get a little bit, quite a little bit actually, of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sweetness in this one. So that's a really, really interesting point to make about this beer for sure. This is a lovely smelling beer, this one. I really like how that goes together. The malty side of this one is top class. I mean, it's got a little bit of the breadiness you might expect from the Czech beers, but at the same time I would say that it's more got the kind of crispness coming out of it that you would expect of the German ones. So it's got a little bit of Tmavy, yeah, it's got a little bit of Tmavy to it, but it's also got a little bit of Schwarzbier. So I'm sure we'll be able to distinguish a little bit more in the flavour what exact kind of beer it is. From what I gather, it uses Mittelfrüh hops, Hallertau Mittelfrüh. So yeah, again, that's a kind of note. That's another tick in the box in favour of the German side of things. But yeah, you can definitely smell a little touch of that kind of soft, noble earthiness out of this one. It's got a nice little smooth herbal quality to it, some, yeah, quite deep, but still quite bright floral aromaticity to it. And then you've got a little bit of that lighter kind of grassy thing going on in there as well. So on the fruity side of things, I mean, it's got a very, very light sort of, just a very light, almost like slightly blackcurranty sort of thing going on, maybe even a little touch figgy, you know, these very, 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 very soft, kind of slightly red fruity kind of notes out of it, maybe like a candied strawberry or something if you really want to kind of push it that way. But you do get a few of the kind of grassy notes out of it as well. You can get a bit of that sort of grassy, citrusy quality out of this beer. But yeah, the fruity side of things is that very soft, figgy, kind of candied strawberry sort of note there as well. But the bread, the brown bread in this one, the nice kind of toasty brown sugars and the biscuit in this, they really come out of this beer. But yeah, the more I smell of this one, the more I think it leans towards that German Schwarzbier type thing. And as I say, Donzoko were hugely influenced by the German beers, so that would make sense. It would make sense that it's a bit more German than Czech, of course. But yeah, I get very excited when I'm reviewing lager beers at the moment. Love it. But yeah, take a bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. Nothing surprising really if you know the style of the beer, but I've got a feeling that this one will be a very nice example of the style. So let's have a taste of this then and see how we get on. The dark lager, a collaboration coming in at 4.5% ABV from North Brewing Company in Leeds in Yorkshire and Donzoko Brewing Company from Hartlepool. I think that would be Northumberland, wouldn't it? Northumbria. So yeah, lovely looking beer this. Let's get stuck into this one and see how we get on. Slàinte, skål, cheers, prost. And the Stravia, of course, as well. But yeah, this is German. This is a German Schwarzbier, 100%. Crispness that you get out of this one straight away, German all the way. No real elements of the more kind of thick Czech bready sort of variant of this style. German 100%, absolutely. But yeah, it is very, very nice, this one. I really do think these lager beers are underappreciated. The thing that you look for in these beers is authenticity, and this one is very, very well done. If you know Donzoko, you're not going to be surprised by the quality of this beer, and it's nice to see North having a go at some lager beers. I'm not sure if they've done Pilsners and Helles and stuff like this, but it is nice to see them have a go at something like this. But this is a very, very nice example of the beer. It actually really does taste fairly similar to Kustritzer, but in fairness, this is a style that I would maybe struggle to pick out subtleties between two different examples, because I just don't get the chance to review that many of them, unfortunately. So if you are watching and you're a fan of the Schwarzbier style, or even the Czech Tmavy, let me know some beers like of this style category that I should look out for and review, because maybe I can get some things brought in from Czech and Germany. We'll need to see about that. But yeah, this is a lovely, lovely example of the style. Long time these lager beers have just been underappreciated. So yeah, this is really, really nice. So where to start with this beer? I'm going to say straight away, this one is very authentic, and that's what you look for in this style of beer, as I mentioned. But straight away with this beer, you can feel the sort of smoothness of that Vienna malt in there, just just blanket in the middle of your palate. You can feel that smooth, slightly brown bready sort of thing there. That is the base, that is the backbone of this beer. But that sits there in the middle third of your palate, and as you go further back onto the final third of your tongue, it does just come out really, really nicely. It does get a little bit more grainy in that back third of your tongue. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Definitely a little bit more grainy, but the breadiness does just feel a little bit thicker as well, actually, which I really, really like. But yeah, you can definitely feel a little bit of the Pilsner malty crispness in this beer. So yeah, slightly thicker and smoother brown bready notes on the back third of your palate. You can feel, as I say, there's a wee bit more graininess and maybe a bit of a roasty, toasty, black malty thing at the back third of your palate. But the thing is, I was saying, remember, that the Czech beers are very, very bready, and I'm describing this one as bready, which might sound a little bit strange to you, but the thing with the German ones is they are decisively lighter and more crisp. The Czech ones just have a kind of more thick quality to them. It's almost like the breadiness is just a lot thicker, and the beer itself is a lot more smooth in its mouthfeel than the kind of crisp German variants, just to be absolutely clear on that. But yeah, roasty at the very back, roasty, toasty black malt, some nice thicker bready notes. And then you can feel that sort of Pilsner malt crispness, if you like, in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate. So I really like that about this one. But yeah, you can feel the thickness of the beer just drop away a little bit as you move into that middle third of your palate. It's got a really nice just smoothness to the brown bread in this one. I don't know if I would call it rye bread, but it's not far away from a sort of German rye bread. Mix of rye bread and wholemeal maybe would make sense. But yeah, there is a wee bit of a kind of really toasty brown sugar to this one. It's not overly sweet, if that makes sense. You do get a little bit of brown sugar in the very centre of your palate, and as you move out from the centre of your palate, it's distinctly more kind of McVitie's Digestive-like and grainy, to be honest. I think that's a good descriptor for this one, absolutely. But yeah, I think that, to be honest, sums up the mouthfeel of this beer very, very nicely. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then head back diagonally, you've got one or two little woody undertones to the beer, which is quite nice. But yeah, it really has everything you would expect of a German Schwarzbier. It does remind me a hell of a lot of Kustritzer. This one is very, very similar in its vibe to that. So yeah, it really is nice in that sense, for sure. Yeah, great stuff, and that's one of the most difficult things to get right with these lagers, is the mouthfeel in combination with the malt base. It's so important, but these breweries have nailed it. They've really done it very, very well, so massive thumbs up to them. These lager beers are very technically demanding for the brewers as well. You've got to be so on it with the yeast and the temperature and things like that, so yeah. Fair play to them for this. But yeah, on to the hoppy side of things then. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little touch of earthiness there. And as you move further forward, you can feel the beer does get a little bit herbal, and then as you reach the front corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of that kind of quite bright floral quality coming out of the beer, which is really, really nice. Yeah, it's quite a bright floral, but always slightly deep at the same time. But then yeah, around the very front curve of the tongue, It's just a little bit lighter and grassy, you know. It's a typical German noble hop quality that you're getting out of this one on the green side of the beer, and it suits it really, really nicely. As I always say, on the front third of your palate, that's when you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And yeah, again, this one is just so authentic. This is probably one of the most authentic non-German, non-Czech lager beers that I've had. And that would be, you know, the other one that comes to mind recently would be the Skånsk lager from Julia Brewery near me in Malmö, near to where I live in Lund in Skåne. That's another extremely good lager beer that I've had recently. So I will be telling Peter at the Clueless Drinker to have a go at this if he can get it, because it is very, very authentic. So yeah, absolutely good stuff for sure. But yeah, let's focus on that fruity side of the beer then. So yeah, on that in that sort of front, in that border between the front third and the middle third of your palate, you do get a bit of an almost sweet, you do definitely get a wee touch of a rye bread in there. It's just got that sweet brown bready quality to it, which is quite interesting. But yeah, when you move in front of that, you do start to get a little bit, there is almost a little bit like a kind of peary, estery sort of thing on that, which is quite unusual. I don't remember having that in Schwarzbiers before, but yeah, as you move just in front of that border region, it's got a little bit of a kind of peary element to it. But yeah, as you go further and further forward from that, you maybe get a very light sort of figgy note, that sort of candied strawberry type thing. But then as you reach the kind of front edge of the palate, the front half of that front third of your tongue, if you like, the front sixth of your palate overall, you do get the more kind of oily, fruity, red fruity character out of this beer for sure. So yeah, for me it really has quite a juicy blackcurranty type vibe to it, and I think as you go further into the aftertaste on the very tip of your tongue, it just rounds out a little bit more and becomes a little bit more wet and oily, and it gives you an almost black, slightly blackberry type flavour. But yeah, black currants on the very kind of front edge of your tongue, a little bit kind of more dried and figgy, almost sultana like actually as you move towards the back, that front third of your tongue. Then you've just got a wee peary sultana type ester coming out of this one too. And yeah, I don't remember the Schwarzbiers before having that little sultana type thing, but then again my palate is a lot more developed now than it would have been when I reviewed like Kustritzer. I'm sure I reviewed that within the first couple of hundred reviews on the channel. So it's nice to go back to a style like this that it's almost like trying a new beer style, to be quite honest with you. But I wish it wasn't. I do wish these dark lager beers, the Schwarzbiers, were more common, to be honest. I'd love to see Julia Brewery have a go at one of these, or a Dunkel or something like this, but this is one of the most authentic Schwarzbiers I've found that's not Czech or not German. But I couldn't tell you how many of this beer style are reviewed on the channel. You just don't find this style very often, which is a real shame. But it gets a massive thumbs up from me, this one, and it is very, very authentic. If you like Kustritzer, you are going to enjoy this one for sure. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, what are we going to say about this one? Yeah, this is it's light-bodied, kind of in the middle of the light-bodied part of the spectrum. The carbonation is fairly smooth on it. It's got a nice cleanliness to it, this beer as well, but at the same time it's just got a wee touch of oiliness to it, which I think brings out some of the sweetness of the bready qualities, like I was saying. But on the hoppy bitterness, this one, it's about 25, 30 IBU, no, 25 is probably more right, 20, 25 IBUs is about right for this one. It's the malt base is quite smooth in this. You get a wee bit of sweetness out of it, but it does dry out. The further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, it certainly does dry out a little bit. And then on the fruity side of things, it's got a little bit of an almost dried fruity quality to it, but there's a wee bit of juiciness in there and a very light touch of oiliness the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, a nicely done beer, this one. It's very, very authentic. That's what I look for when it comes to these traditional lager type beers. But this is an awesome example of the Schwarzbier. It's most definitely German, a German Schwarzbier rather than a Czech Tmavy. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this one. I think that's a good place to kind of round off this review. So yeah, I would recommend this beer to my friend Peter the Clueless Drinker, and also to Adam at Mersey Beers. I know that he likes a dark lager beer as well. So yeah, and if you guys like Kustritzer, you will enjoy this one 100%, absolutely. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from North Brewing Company and from Donzoko Brewing Company. We will return to both of these breweries at some point in the future. Give me some other Schwarzbier and Tmavy recommendations. This is a style that I would like to feature on the channel a little bit more as part of this kind of lager phase that I'm going through. But yeah, this is just an awesome example of the style. I'm not surprised considering the two breweries involved in this. Had some great beers from both of them. Donzoko, we know, are almost specialist in these lager beers. But yeah, reviewing beers like this, I think, is really fun. It's a shame we don't see more of these German lagers out there, especially the Schwarzbiers and the Dunkels. I would love to see more breweries having a go at some of these. But yeah, awesome stuff, and well done to North and Donzoko and everybody else involved. So yeah, let's leave it there. Thanks again for watching. Check out my social media, check out North and Donzoko, and I will catch you guys in the next review. The Dark Lager, 4.5% ABV. This one most definitely a German Schwarzbier from North Brewing Company in Leeds in Yorkshire, and Donzoko Brewing Company from Hartlepool, who, if I remember rightly, are from Northumbria, forget, yeah, but yeah, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, and catch you guys on the next review.